What's up, gang? This is Don McD'Angelo. I'm of several outlets, SEScoops.com, adfreeshows.com, but I am live here today on the Four Horsemen Network, fourhorsemenetwork.com, and it is a new episode recording of Straight Talk with the Boss, Magnum TA, Greg Gagne, and guess who's here? Both guys, Greg Gagne and Magnum.
We both made it. Yay!
Had a little bit of technical snafus starting off here, but we're A-okay now. So it's good to have you guys back again. Episode 21.
Ooh.
Yes.
Is it really?
21. You believe it, huh?
Well, let's hope we get some viewers.
Yeah, let's get some viewers. We got some people tuning in. We are live on fourhorsemenetwork.com. We're live on my Twitter. We're also live on Anderson's Twitter. So, guys, get your comments in. Get your questions in. We're going to have a fun show here. They got some neat stuff planned. CB, usual, he joins in. Hello, Greg and Magnum, he says. Matt Karcher says, love the podcast. Thank you very much. So, guys, yeah, be sure to get some questions in. We'll be happy to address some moving on here today. But, guys, I wanted to start off. Today's May 23rd. And if you're a wrestling fan, and me growing up in the Attitude Era in like the 90s and everything like that, that'll always be synonymous with the tragic passing of Owen Hart. And it's 25 years ago today when that happened.
Was it really?
Yeah, pretty crazy to think about. I exactly remember where I was when I heard it and all that stuff. So I just wanted to get both your guys' thoughts about Owen Hart in general and what you were going through when you kind of heard the news about all that. Greg, let's start with you on this one.
Well, you know, I was in St. Louis this weekend for we had an event down there, and Bob Orton was inducted into the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. And Herb Simmons put it on, did a fantastic job. And I had quite a few people ask me about that, what our thoughts were. There were some other ones, and I think maybe we could get to those later on about concussions and all that. Mm-hmm. But somebody had sat there and they told me, and they were very close to Owen, and that night he was all excited about this event that he was going to come flying down from the ceiling, you know, lower down. And they think he was so excited that he forgot to hook himself.
Really?
That's what this guy said. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. You know, somebody else said that the technicians in there didn't hook it right. And he went, but they said he was so excited and that he went before he was supposed to go.
I can tell you definitively.
Really, I mean, I'm hearing that from somebody. How close they were to it, I don't know. They said they were, but you know, you never know. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody really knows. I mean, the only people that really know is the guys who were up there hooking them up.
Magnum, what did you hear?
Definitively, it had nothing to do with him. You're not you do not let the person that's doing the stunt be responsible for their safety. Hands down, end of story. That does, you know, that's like, you know, you're not in your backyard coming down from a rope swing. You know, that was a very organized stunt, you know, type activity, and you know, something went wrong, but it certainly had nothing to do. Owen would not have been given the responsibility of hooking himself up or being able to leap, you know, before he was supposed to go or any of that kind of stuff. That's not even possible. And if it were possible, it wouldn't have been a wrongful death suit, right? And so, I mean, it's tragic, you know, in sports, you know, the world of sports entertainment. I mean, how many times have we seen Shawn Michaels, you know, blasting into the WrestleMania on a, you know, skyline kind of thing, and you know, Sting, I can't even count the amount of times Sting, you know, came down out of the ceiling on, you know, just such of a deal. So it was a tragedy. It's I don't think there's anybody particularly you can blame, because it, you know, obviously it wasn't something premeditated. It was truly, you know, something, a misstep and something that took place. But the thing about it to me, besides the, you know, just tragic loss for a family and a great young man. I met him at WCW. I signed him in WCW before he ever went up to WWE and did all that stuff.
Oh, really?
When I was what they called the deputy talent director at WCW. I signed guys like Steve Austin and Chris Benoit and a whole slew of people that came through during that era to their startup contracts. And I met him, and very likable guy. It wasn't real charismatic, on camera, but tremendously gifted and skilled in the ring. And of course, the WWE found a way to bring his personality out and give him a voice and give him an opportunity to show his chops and what all he could do. But the how you handle something like that in a live event is something. First of all, I never want to be in that position to say, oh, what I would have done, because certainly all eyes on millions of people watching, and that had to just be the most gut wrenching thing, because people say, oh, well, they were heartless, they were cruel. Well, they were they were having the show had to go and had to keep running, but how to handle that with dignity and grace, and the feeling that must have been on everyone's mind in the back. They had to perform afterwards because they had to know he wasn't kicking out of that. That
Yeah.
that was a showstopper. So just one of the greatest tragedies that happened live, ever in the history of the industry that got captured on film. We've had people die in the ring. Things have happened over the years, but never with that many eyes on. That was just something I hope we never have to hear about again.
Boy, me too.
Right.
It was hard, because you get people that say they were close to the Hart family talking to you like, and find out afterwards they're really not that close. But fans come up and they create these stories, and sometimes it's hard to determine if they really know what they're talking about or if they don't. And it's funny. There's one gal there, and she's really a nice lady. Name is Shannon, and she's a great fan. And I never knew the history of how she became a wrestling fan. And she gave me a book she wrote about my father, Vern.
Oh,
and she had more information in that book than anything I've ever read in my life.
really?
Yes. And she was a psychology major. And then she talked about Alzheimer's and, what that was like, and how, she had all the things Vern went through. And it was pretty amazing. But it was, I've been kind of talking to her the last few days because I forget stuff now, and I'm getting worried, and I worry about everybody in the ring, because she was talking about concussion protocol, and we've got hit so many times over the head with chairs, took bumps, banged your head on the mat, on the ring post. And, I'm sure that contributes to a lot of it. And I know at times thank God I got Laura here, because I forget what I'm doing half the time. And that makes me really nervous that that's coming on. And for the Hart family going through that, I just can really feel for them, because he was so young and he had finally discovered his identity in the ring and who he really was. And he was a star, and him and Brett did a phenomenal job. I had one of my first matches with Brett down in Memphis.
Did you really?
Yeah. And he was just really green, but we had a heck of a match, But, Stu Hart was one of those guys that really trained the people right, came out of that camp.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. So, no, it's when you kick off the show with something like that, it's kind of a downer, but it is. But it has to be, you have to talk about it. People talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is one of the all-time tragedies in wrestling, no doubt about it. And like, to kind of think, I was probably like 13 at the time, so it was like that was the first big wrestling tragedy that it hit me. But then moving forward, it's like you see all these other things happen, but that is always a sobering one. And you kind of think about the Hart family in that light and what kind of happened with the family. There's so much stuff afterwards that happened, from Brett getting a concussion to just the family kind of having their tensions with one another. And it's just, and losing somebody like Owen, who you hear so much fun stuff about. He was a great ribber and like playful, not like mean spirited when it came to that stuff. And just a great person. And it would have been really, really neat to see what WWE or pro wrestling would have done with Owen, and what Owen would have done with pro wrestling moving forward if he was going to just have a shorter lived career. Because I knew he was ready to spend time with his kids more so. But it would have been really neat to see what he would have done moving in the future, So pretty, I wanted to touch upon that real quick. I think we'll probably cover the Hart family a little bit more in depth at some point. I'm sure for an episode or something would be great.
Oh, we'll have to get Brett on here if we can.
Oh, how awesome that be. Yeah. And I always recommend the book too. Pain and Passion, it's called, by Heath McCoy. It covers all of the Hart family, and from Stu Hart starting on to moving forward with, Brett and Owen and Davey Boy and everybody from Stampede Wrestling. It's such a great book. So I always recommend people to go check that book out. Really covers a lot of that ground. And to what you were saying, Magnum, about that, some of the issues that it came with Owen's fall, they go in depth about that a lot too. So I always recommend that book too. So guys,
and before I forget, Jeannie Clark reached out to me and said she would love to be a guest sometime. And I bet that would be very enlightening from her perspective, from Steve's early career and of course Chris Adams' career, and all the things she was engulfed in. She probably has very unique perspectives on some things she could lend. So I thought that was kind of cool. She reached out.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, here's a question here regarding Owen. Magnum, why did the show have to go on after Owen's fall, do you think?
The dynamic would have been it's like I don't know what you can attest it to, but the whole dynamic of what was going on there, to have just stopped everything, probably would have been more scarring to millions of people. And it just, the plug been pulled, the whole thing stopped, everything, just cut off. It would the ripple effect would have probably even magnified it. And I mean, that's the only thing I can tell you. It's so tragic. Everybody, of course, didn't know definitively that it was, that he was not going to. They knew something very critical could happen, but the vast majority of people obviously didn't know that he'd passed initially, and again, it's a tough call. I mean, it's like you've seen great big football games where a guy's had a heart attack, or somebody's broke their neck and been paralyzed and carried off the field, and the game went on. The things go on. It's not being disrespectful. It's still, as a matter of fact, for everybody that's played in the game, you want the game to go on. You don't want it to. It doesn't all circle. You're part of it. You're in it. You're intimate part of it, but it's not all surrounding any one individual. So it's part of the story, and it's a very sad story, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah. So guys, all the best to, the Hart family. Just a family legacy, just like you guys have with the Gagnes, the Rhodeses, the Funks, the Von Erichs, you name it. There's so many great wrestling families, and the Hart dynasty is definitely one of them too. So, I always, Owen is it's just a tragic loss to happen. So I figured with 25 years of it happening on today, nonetheless, as we record, I wanted to cover that. Let me see. Oh, yeah, here's a good question here. CB chimes in. Greg and Magnum, did you see the Dynamite Kid's nephew's match with Dax Harwood and him using the Dynamite Kid name? Did you happen to see that at all or catch word of that?
I saw something now. I'm remembering on Instagram, and some picture, and I didn't read. I didn't have time to delve into it to see what it was, but I did see something about it, and I'd love to see it. I'd love to see some of that DNA still out there in the ring, and what's going on with it. That'd be cool.
I get to see him wrestle under NMLW, him and his brother, or I think it's his brother, yeah. But they're both the nephews of Dynamite Kid, and the one that wrestled Dax, he looks exactly like Dynamite. It's pretty wild.
Does he really?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal.
Where did you see him?
On AEW Collision, so their Saturday show that they had.
Which is that, AEW?
Yeah, AEW on their Collision Saturday show. I'm sure there's a clip of it on YouTube, Greg. I'll send it both to you guys.
Okay, I'd like to see it, yeah.
From what I hear, it's a good match, too. I hear it's a really good match. So,
well, I'm sure they got the bloodline, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Here's another good question. Doug Myers, when do we get to see Greg's AWA International Television belt? I have a replica of it, and it would be cool to see how the original looks now.
I've got it upstairs. I could bring it down. I'm in this townhouse, and it's a little small for us, and I wish I had a den so I could put some of that stuff up. I have nowhere to put it. I thought, well, maybe, TA's got all his accolades up there and his belts. I thought, I look like I got nothing up here, and it's kind of a dipshit over here sitting here with a gray backdrop.
A lot of pizzazz behind
the one you made for me put it on my computer, which I can't even use. So it's a hell of a deal. You guys are taking care of me pretty good.
We'll have to get a big
who's the guy with the gray background? What a dull ass he is.
We want the focus on you, Greg. Nothing else. That's why.
Yeah, right. No, I have it up. I'll try to get it on here one day for you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Keep watching.
Keep on tuning in. It's a cliffhanger, guys. Andrew Hermes, he's the research guy for ARN. He says, for a podcast I co-host, we're doing a watch-along of The Gathering, and my co-host has never seen it. I can't wait to blow his mind with the awesomeness that is the I Quit match. So, yeah, very cool. Infamous. You and Tully there, Magnum. We talked about that several
times.
Who's
in that?
Well, The Gathering.
Oh, two old hacks.
It must have been pretty spectacular because I've just heard nothing but great things about it, and people love to talk about it. And Magnum TA was in there with Tully Blanchard, and those are two great people to be in the ring with. The two of them together had to be a fantastic match. And I hope I could see one time. I've already looked for it, but I can't find it anywhere. I don't know. Did they tape it, TA? Do you know?
Oh, no.
No. Okay. Are we done then?
Somebody should have taped that. That was a great idea.
Yeah, Jesus. Did anybody tape her on it? I don't know. Jesus.
Oh, man. That's a rubber room you're in. You're not fooling me no more. You're in a rubber room, and they just let you out to come do this with us once a week. That's what the deal is. And Go-Go's really a nurse there. And you just let her take off the little hat and everything to come in and play the Go-Go role. Now I know. I got it down, Pat. I got it
down. Matt Karcher, Magnum battled Kamala on Great American Bash card. How was he as an opponent? And Greg, have you ever had a match with Kamala?
You start with me or TA?
Greg, have you ever?
Greg, did you ever wrestle Kamala?
I never met. I met Kamala. I never had a match with him though.
Oh, okay.
No, I guess fortunately.
They recorded some of them. They recorded some of them.
They recorded some of them. Just so
I could have hit him with a couple drop kicks, but he'd probably just stood there looking at me. So, he
was a great guy to work with, and he's huge. I mean, just a huge guy, big gentle giant. He had Skandar Akbar managing him when I worked with him, and he was just a super guy. He's a super guy in the ring, out of the ring. We got to see each other many years down the road after he had retired, and he's just super. I mean, one of the a big man that could move and go like that. I think a lot of people take that for granted. when somebody's 360, 380 pounds and can move like a lot of big guys. I mean, the wrestling business has had a whole host of them, but they make things look so easy and move with such grace and ease. There's some guys that, a $150 couldn't do the things that those guys were able to do. And he was just a joy to be in the ring with.
Yeah. Yeah. He was such a fun character too. I remember them first seeing him, the early version of him in World Class. They had some stuff on him on the network, the WWE network. And I remember watching, I was like, wow, I didn't know Kamala was in the World Class. And so it was pretty wild to see that. But yeah, he was a fun one.
T, how long were you in the ring with him?
I only worked with him a couple times. I actually flew into Mid-South when I was working for Crockett. I flew in there and shot an angle with him on their TV for us to bring it into the Great American Bash. And we just worked a couple times, but and he was on his way to New York. I mean, he was on his way to WWE because at the time it was, of course, everybody back then was trying to protect their credibility, and nobody wanted to have a clean loss in the middle of the ring, particularly one that's going to be taped, they're going for prosperity. But he was on his way up, and so the finish we ended up working the DQ for a finish, which is what Skandar wanted to do. But all the people remembered was after the match, I threw him in the ropes and gave him the belly suplex, and that's all anybody remembered of the match.
Yeah.
So it's it's effect and the illusion and the pop and what you want to give the people. But great businessman, great entertainer, and I really liked the things he did up in the WWE. Great babyface character, when they kind of flipped the script on him. And I mean, he's just amazing, and he's going to be in our Ultra Series 2 for Powertown, and I'm really excited for us to get that rendition polished up so we can show the rest of the world what we're going to do with him, because he was a one of a kind if there ever was one.
That's tremendous.
What did he weigh?
About 380.
380?
My goodness. 380.
I worked with Jerry Blackwell. That was the
How
big guy.
much did he weigh?
Jerry was close to 4 bills.
Oh my gosh.
But and I remember we wrestled him the first time I wrestled him alone. We were in Rockford, Illinois, and it was like mid-July. And in a high school gym, it was 4,000 people in there, and they had the basketball lights on, the fluorescent ones. And I'm in the locker room, and I said, I'll be back in about 10 or 15 minutes at the most. I'm going to wear this guy out tonight. He had me in the ring for 45 frickin' minutes. I could hardly breathe. He'd lay that weight on you and lay it against the ropes. And it had to be 100 degrees in there, and just dying. But boy, was he great for his size. Unbelievable the way he can move in the ring and what he could do.
Man. Great
Competitor, just unbelievable. That was, you looked at him and everybody thought he was soft. God, he could go. Did you ever work with Jerry at all?
Did you work with Jerry Magnum?
No, I never did, because he was. We weren't ever in the same place. I mean, I remember watching y'all's program when I was just breaking in, just getting started in the early '80s, and he was working with you guys up there. But then, as I made my way across America, we just never bumped into the same place.
God, I wish we'd had you in the AWA.
We talked about that.
It could have been an interesting story.
Yeah, it sure could have been.
Man. Well, let's keep the focus on a little bit of that.
He'd probably had another belt. He'd had another belt behind him.
Right?
Yeah, probably the one I had. So then you can see it. Whoever was asking about, then you can see it. Magnum could have both of them.
How about Magnum? How about Vader? What were your thoughts on Vader as a big man in the work that he did?
Leon, I was around him when we were on Fire, and we worked a big joint promotion in the Meadowlands,
Mm-hmm.
And it may have been some of the AWA guys here. I'm not sure because wasn't he working with you guys?
He started with us.
Did
We
he
trained
really?
him. Yeah.
I did not
Yeah.
know that.
You didn't know
So
that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, God, I'll tell you that story when you're done.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Magnum. Let's
so
hear
I
it.
went on a
I'm
show
excited.
with him when he just got started. He was really green and in the Meadowlands. And I remember thinking, man, what I mean, if this guy, I'm thinking in my head, if this guy can ever get it, he's going to be, box office big money. And then, later on when I, end up working at WCW in corporate capacity, I spent a lot of time with him, and he was a very intelligent guy. Uh, you know, he envisioned himself maybe a little bit tougher than he really was, because yeah, I mean he was a tough guy, but when you're measuring people by the toughness of a Harley Race or a Mad Dog Vachon or some of the just legendary guys or Brody. Brody backed him in a corner up in the AWA. I think when he very first started, he told that story on one of the podcasts I saw him on. But just really had a head for business and became such a big star in Japan. Wanted to duplicate that here and never for as big as well as you could move. He had a chance at it at WCW, but they because they had Harley managing him, and it was a great look. It was a good deal, and they just when the momentum was going, they shifted gears, and that's when Bill Watts came in, and they made Ron Simmons the world's champ, and really the motion was coming behind Vader. Vader was a monster, and people believed he was a monster, and his work was really credible. He's 400, plus pounds. He can moonsault off the top rope and do all these crazy things. And he just didn't get the right chance at the right time to be as big in America as he was, in my opinion, in Japan.
Yeah, to follow that up real quick, Magnum too. What the momentum he was building at the time too. Later on, Hulk Hogan was coming to WCW. He would have been quite the opponent that people were used to seeing Hogan face. I don't know how much momentum Hogan would have caught on still as a top baby face, because I think the act was kind of running stale. But that the Vader seemed like a complimentary opponent to him, like just right off the bat.
But the bad part was,
Mhm.
and there's always a pro and a con. He was so big in dimension. It wasn't that he was careless, but he hurt quite a few people working with them. Nikita was one of them. Nikita got hurt with a power bomb working with Vader. There's other guys, had similar stories, and you can't if you're a big guy and you can't take care of the big star baby faces, you're not going to go but so far.
It's true.
You're not going to hurt a Sting. You're not going to hurt a Dusty Rhodes. You're not going to hurt a Hulk Hogan and have a long shelf life for a big run.
Right.
And I think I don't think he was maliciously doing it or just being careless. I think he was just so big that sometimes something would happen, maybe a little clumsy or something, just because of his sheer girth. And when you're that big, it doesn't take much to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
I think at his biggest, he was like 450 pounds or something. And I mean, and he could go. Not quite as good as Paul Orndorff in shower shoes, but he could go.
Were you there for that? Did you see the fight?
No,
okay.
No, but I knew Paul well, and he was a stud till the day he died, and I have no problem believing it whatsoever.
Oh man. Well, Greg, talk about him starting off in the AWA, Vern training him, all that stuff.
Well, he went to the University of Colorado, played football there, and he was a top draft, one of the top draft choices. Played for the Los Angeles Rams for about 6 years, but he used to watch wrestling in Denver all the time. So we're wrestling there, and after the matches, we go back to the hotel, and here's Van Vader, Leon White, with an agent, and they wanted to talk to me. And they said, "Is Vern here today?" I said, "No, he's not here. What can I do for you? Well, this is one of the toughest guys in the world. He knocks out people's in the bar all the time. And I said, oh, really? And what do you want to do here? He said, well, he wants to be a professional wrestler, you know. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. He might be knocking guys out in the bar, but there isn't anybody that you saw on the card tonight that wouldn't kick the crap out of you. And he looked at me, and I said, I'm not kidding you. I said, who was on the open match tonight? They said, Brad Ringens. I said, well, good. Here's what I would suggest. You talk to Vern and come to our camp. I'll tell Vern, you know, we had a great All-American football player, All-Pro for the Rams, wants to be a wrestler, and he's tough as nails. And we'll put you in the ring. And so he came, and Vern put him out. And Brad, work out with Brad. And I told Brad that, you know, the deal. He had him screaming for his mom. He had him in tears. And, you know, it was like, you know, he came out of that with a whole different perspective of professional wrestling. But he went through the camp, you know, and he became a big star, and he was a stud. He was a stud, but, you know, he had that little streak in him, like TA said, and he couldn't control it and hurt a lot of guys. You know, once you start hurting a lot of people, you know, you're going to get that reputation, and people don't want to get in the ring with you.
Right. It's
so,
you know, it's very talented.
But, you know, all in all, he was good for wrestling.
Yes,
absolutely, hands down. Credit to the business, and you know, 99.9% of people, real people, would not last 2 seconds with Leon.
No, they wouldn't.
It would not. He was the real deal. As a matter of fact, I remember vividly. We were there. There was this place we stayed in Atlanta, and him and I would sit in the bar and prognosticate sometimes about different things, and he wanted me to find a way to get him a fight with Mike Tyson.
What?
He wanted to fight Mike Tyson, and Leon had really fast hands, but you know, he wasn't a professional boxer. But he was convinced. He said, I could knock him out. And I said, well, I said, you know, I said, if you wish for something hard enough, you know, those opportunity just might come down the road. There's enough money involved for everybody that somebody will take a look at this thing. But it never happened. But I mean, we spent hours and hours talking about a match with him and Mike back in the day.
Well, he would go after anybody, you know, and I'm sure he handled a lot of people in pro football. I know he did. But, you know, it was a little different when you step in the ring with a guy that has the kind of background that Brad had, and let him know what it's really like in there. But even after you learn, he still had that little edge about him. You know, he had a little thing where he knock out everybody. You know, thank God. I mean, I was across the table from him, and I'm shooting my mouth off. There isn't anybody in wrestling you can handle. Thank God he didn't come across the table, but I know I'd have got one shot in before.
You would have got something in at least.
Something. I was there thinking, okay, what am I going to do here? How am I going to handle this thing?
We got several people in the chat saying how lovely Vader smelled. Apparently, he had quite the aroma about him. I guess.
I think it was the gear. I think anybody that wears that full long gear, that doesn't have a lot of them and keeps them clean, that's got to be a hygiene nightmare. You know, honestly, as a matter of fact, I was talking to somebody about that just in the past week. I worked in a lot of like bunkhouse and street fight matches and stuff like that. And I absolutely hated them because just having long pants on sucked. Oh, those guys that wore all that stuff, man. Ooh,
oh God! And they're on the road. They're on the road for a couple of weeks, and they don't throw them in the washing machine. Oh,
yeah.
It's tough.
I'll pass.
Did you? Kevin Nash said he would use Woolite in the sink and stuff like that in the hotel.
That he'd what?
Would use Woolite to clean the gear.
He
might have needed
he had a wife, but he didn't get home. I think he didn't want to wash him on the road. He didn't know how to do it, I don't think.
He would do it in the hotel sink and stuff like that when he was on the road.
Maybe.
But Man, that's crazy stuff. I think it's pretty cool. Darren Staley's got a great question I want to get to, but before we get to that, I want to ask too about how about Bam Bigelow? Did you guys have any cross paths with him and everything like that? As another big man, he was just somebody that was really transcendent. I think
he was on a card with us, but I never got in the ring with him.
Okay.
So I wasn't around him enough to know his real personality. I only saw him once or twice.
Right. What'd you think of his ring work though?
Oh, it was good.
Yeah.
I wasn't in there with him, so I don't know how good it was, but from what I saw, he was, he did his thing and he did it as good as he could do it.
Right.
And he had some great matches with a lot of different talent. T, did you ever run across him?
I was there when Paul E. dangerously tried to be his introduction to the world at it was in New York. What was the big nightclub there? Studio 54. The old Studio 54, and they put on a little wrestling deal there, and Flair and I and Dusty came down, and it was Bam Bam's coming out party. So we got to just shake hands and say hello and everything, and that was the first time I ever met him. And then years later, he came to work at WCW like a lot of the other guys, and I got to spend a little time around him. Super guy, and big guy, can move, and had a good rap, and of course he had that flamed tattoo job on his head.
Maybe I should.
Where's yours?
Yeah, I might get mine flamed. That's a great idea.
Let's all get flames together.
All three of us might have to do that.
Maybe, Greg, if I get to go to your Hall of Fame induction, let's all get flame tattoo heads. What do you think?
You. All I heard was Hall of Fame induction. You mumbled out.
Okay. I said if I go to your Hall of Fame induction, we should all get flame tattoo heads. That's
okay.
Mm-hmm.
I might just get a hairline tattooed on. That's a great idea.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Get that hairline.
Like Wahoo used to spray his head with a can. I'll just get mine tattooed on, and you won't know from a distance.
You won't even notice.
Blackjack Lanza used to do that. He took the black, it was like shoe polish, put it on the top of his head, right? And then you grab a headlock on him, it shoots you off, and shit, you have all these black shit all over you on your tights and everywhere when you came out of the ring.
Yeah.
That's great.
He was a dandy. He was great in the ring. He was another one that Vern trained. Him and Blackjack Mulligan.
Man. Longtime agent for WWE, I remember too here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I want to find where Darren Staley, he started off these questions. He actually asked this last week and I forgot to bring it up. Let me see here. Oh, here we go. First part of it. I asked this to Flair. Oh, nope. Sorry. That's not it yet. Here I come with my question again. If Tia had won the NWA title, would Flair have stayed or bolted WWE, do you think? If you won the NWA title, what do you think Flair would have done?
It would have I believe I believe him and I would have gone round and round and round. Even it wouldn't have been, Flair put on a shelf in my mind. And it would have really been, it would really been on me what I could have done with the belt, because getting the belt and carrying the belt's two different things. Flair says, frankly, the first time he won it, he wasn't ready for it, and then when he got it the next time, he was. So it would have been, it would totally been dependent on how it played out. I was already transcending into that kind of lone wolf heel babyface-ish type character. So, it would have lended itself to work with a lot of people. But if Flair had been taken out of the championship race or the running forward or out of that conversation, that would have been one thing. But, it's all just, guesswork at this point in time, because they had a vision of what they wanted, and it totally had nothing to do with reality of what Rick was capable of going on to perform and be, because he had another 25, 30 good years left in the tank when they were thinking that he should be getting into retirement mode. So, but I do believe in my heart that if he had somehow been kind of pushed to the side and not given the opportunity, the opportunity up north would have looked a little more promising.
Yeah, and I think how Darren described it too. He asked Flair this, and he demurred, talking about having a TA run, then perhaps moving the run to Japan for a while. So it seems like he would have been probably on boat with you about like having a good program with you after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also adds this, or hell, would TA have dropped the belt back to Flair and then bolted to WWE himself? This could be a whole episode, I reckon. It really could. Yeah, we could talk.
Yeah, and the only thing that I can tell you definitively, had the Crockett's still lost the business, had I not crashed and burned, and they made all the moves that they did, had they still ultimately lost the business, I would have not had the loyalty to Turner that I did to the Crockett family and what they, the word they gave to me with the bond that they lived up to, and the tightness we had. I mean, we were family, and I wouldn't have felt that way working for a corporate entity. If anything, then the WWE would look more enticing because I would look at it, family owned, family owned business that they had a heritage and had a lineage and blah 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 blah. And I also wouldn't have liked not seeing the growth potential on all the different fields that the WWE was able to expand into. If the NWA had just stayed, in that silo and just, trying to do that one thing, because you couldn't be one dimensional and continue to grow. So that would have been, a big old factor. But, Dusty and I, neither one were cut out of that sheet of cloth that where that corporate thing would have appealed to either one of us.
Right. I wanted to follow up with this too, Magnum. You mentioned being the kind of like the babyface, the heel kind of cool mixture of that. Do you think at that time period, you hear about how hot Hogan was back then and everything like that. Do you think there was a market for that kind of babyface at that time, that anti-hero kind of loner heel going on?
Well, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin showed the world that the world was hungry for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my idols in movies and stuff were guys like Clint Eastwood and the good, the bad, and the ugly, and he was that kind of hero kind of thing, and all those things too. And so I had that kind of ingrained in my thought process, and it would have played so well against Hogan being the baby kissing, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, deal that he was, making the public believe that he was. I would have been the perfect foil on the other side of the fence to what he was selling, and could have really blown the roof off of it if we'd had the opportunity. But again, you had to have the machine. You got to have the people with a vision that can blow this thing up and get you on the talk show circuit and get you out there, in the right scene with the right people in Hollywood, and where people are buzzing about, who's this guy, what's this thing, I can tell you definitively it could have happened huge, and it would have changed the course of the whole trajectory of wrestling, and it would have changed some people's careers, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It would have been so fun to have like that kind of cool program. The well-dressed, rich, limo riding, jet flying Ric Flair against an anti-hero like you, I think would have been really, really a hell of a program to move forward with. It would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Greg, we got a question for you here from Matt. He says, Greg, what are your thoughts on Nails, Kevin Kelly? He was Mr. Magnificent in the AWA and was also known as a tough guy, choked out Vince. Do you remember Nails there?
Oh, I remember Kelly. Yeah, I just talked to him not too long ago. He's really a good guy, but he's a tough son of a gun, boy. They gave him the right name and they gave him Nails because Vince found that out the hard way.
Yes, he did.
In fact, I got him. I think got him on board here for Power Town, and he's a hard worker. He's a different cat without a doubt. But when it came around to being what he had to do in the ring, he did it.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, if you crossed him, look out. And Vince crossed him. I said we have to have an action figure of him knocking out the promoter.
Have like a promoter accessory, like a.
I think everybody will figure out who it is. We can take that other action figure of not being Vince, but look somewhat like him, and put them in a box together.
Well, you have him leaning over a body that you can't see who it is, and just have their little feet sticking out the end. Kind of goozling them.
That's all you need. Yeah, perfect.
So you can't get the likeness rights to Vince, but
yeah, no, Kevin, he was a tough guy, and he was really good. He did well for us in the AWA, and but you know what, guys get a little temperamental, and when somebody tries to take advantage of them, you got to eventually stand up for yourself. And he stood up. He didn't like what Vince was telling him.
laid the hammer down. Got the hands of
Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Right?
Yeah.
What was his background? Was he a football player? Or do you know what he did before wrestling?
He played some sports, and he played a little football, but he was a street guy too,
mm-hmm.
and he was a fighter, and he worked out hard, and he could defend himself.
Yeah,
and he did.
Speaking of guys who could defend themselves, Italian has a question. Greg, do you think Stunning Steve got his vision from Dr. David Schultz, Dr. D. David Schultz? I wonder if he means the look or exactly.
Stunning Steve.
Like Steve Austin, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was around David Schultz. He was a friend of Hogan's, and he brought him in. He was another tough guy to, he was a little difficult to work with at times. But, he got himself in a good position, and he did well. And what was the question now?
He said, did he think Stunning Steve got his vision from David Schultz? So maybe he got his persona.
Boy. I don't know if Steve was around him that much. Yeah. I was with Steve when he was, when he was first starting, and had him down in Atlanta when I was with WCW. And had him, in fact, I worked with him quite a bit in the ring with Booker T, Kevin Nash, Diamond Dallas Page, and who else was in there?
Triple H,
Brian Pillman. Yeah, so and I had to work with them in Triple H, and had to work with them quite a bit, and Steve was a little frustrated, but as we went along in the camp. In fact, one day I just said I wanted the guys to watch him. I said we wrestled an hour against each other, and I think he started to get the flow for it, and started to really realize who he was, and that's what Vern would try to tell us. You have to let your inner self come out. You have to be who you are. And I was around Steve a couple of times when he had a few beers in him, and I said, "Man, that's the real you." That's what you have to project to the people. Don't try to be Stunning Steve. You're not a Stunning Steve, and I don't know. It just, that's what makes somebody successful or not in wrestling. They learn the art of it, but they have to really be who they really are inside. And I used to take guys out sometimes and get them drunk. Now the real you comes out. They say, "Hey, this is what I'm." Project that. That's who you are.
That's what we were talking about doing before the show here. All of us getting a little, and then we'll show our real selves out here. Well,
our personalities have already come out,
right?
You don't want my personality when I have a few drinks in me.
I think we did.
Logo knows that one. She's here now.
We might get some more video views on if we did that, Craig.
You got to keep me away from the ladies. She's nodding her head.
All right, we got a couple more questions and then we'll close it out. Let's see here. Darren Staley has another good one here. I'm going to stop asking questions today, but I have so many. I love these shows. Has and will TA rent his likeness on a video game? He already is. He's going to be in two of them, Darren. Both the Retro Mania and then UPW, the Ultimate Pro Wrestling game, which is set to release. So.
Yeah, and I just got a call from Sonny Ono. He'd like to have us in a third one.
Jeez, all over the grid. Greg, I want you in a video game too, just so you know.
Yeah, I had a call on one today. Also, I haven't told TA about it yet. I haven't had a chance. Got one from them, and I got another one from one of our talents, Igor's son, Eric Garza, and he said somebody's calling him, wants to put him in a card game.
Oh,
and apparently he's got TAs in it, and he had the whole roster of the AWA in it. I don't know how he did it and how he got these guys on board. And I said, "Did you get a contract from him?" He said, "No." And I said, "Well, what's the deal? I mean, what are you getting paid?" "Well, I don't know what to do." So, well, I'll look into it a little bit and we'll go from there.
My goodness.
I've been in a couple games I haven't been paid for ever either, or consult.
Well, you're in this card game, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know about this card game?
No, I'm saying I'm in some card games right now that I've been in for the last 5 years, and I got no idea who even ran them.
Well, I'm going to send you the guy's name. See if you're in with this guy because he's got you in there.
Yeah,
I'll
have it.
He's got your
I'll
roster.
call Andy up. Stick Andy on him.
Everything in there. These guys just do it, you know, and
Jeez.
I don't know, you know.
Well, Darren asked the other question too. What was it here? Why didn't Rick Martel get more over? What do you think? Why didn't Rick?
Who are you asking?
Get more over? Both of you guys. You had experience with Rick in the AWA, so let's start with you, Greg.
Well, he became the AWA champion. Rick is just a great guy and a great performer in the ring, you know, and he got over as well as he could with the public. And I'm not knocking Rick, but there was just something that didn't jive with the people. And what it was, I couldn't tell you. Because he had it all. He had a great body. He worked great in the ring. He had a lot of fire. And he did well for the WWE. Mm-hmm. He did good for us, but not great. You know, TA, did you ever have any experiences with Rick?
Just not. We were never worked in the same place at the same time. You know, I watched him.
Yeah.
And I think it gets back down to a couple things that no matter how hard you try, there's certain things that are just a gift. And charisma is like a gift. You either have it, you can't learn charisma. You learn how to show your charisma, but it's not like an acquired skill. Mm-hmm. You know that thing, that intangible thing. And there's some guys that were in the business over the years that were absolutely stellar performers, and bell time to bell time could do anything in that ring, you know, better than the guys that were in the main event on a lot of circumstances. But to Greg's point, they couldn't connect with the fans. It couldn't become personal. It couldn't become something that the fans could live vicariously through what they saw them going through. And so that connection just never got made. And for us that like to talk a little, like Greg and myself, and obviously we wouldn't be on this podcast.
Right.
For me, it was always such an open, ongoing conversation because we looked right into the camera when we talked. We weren't like somebody on a movie set playing, you know, a role with somebody. When we cut promos, we were looking dead. That red light came on and we were on. And the people felt it, that we were on. We were in their house with them. They were connected to us. But some guys could talk, they could say it, but they just couldn't make you believe it, that you believed in what you were saying. And I think, you know, there's a little bit of that is just part of the magic that, some people got a little more sprinkled on than others. I mean, guys like Dusty Rhodes, one of the most charismatic interviewers of all time, and knew how to work psychology in the ring. Amazing. Yet his skill sets on a 1 to 10 as far as ring mechanics were like, he might have been a 3 or a 4 by comparison. Yet he knew what to do. He knew what he could do great. And he knew exactly when to do it, and could talk a cat off the back of a fish wagon. And you got to be able to do just that and convince somebody of what you're selling. And that's what it takes to be a star.
And you can't teach that.
No.
I mean, either they have it and you bring it out of them, or they don't. And that's just like TA said, it's that connection you get with the people from the camera on how they perceive you and how you can bring them into your personality and either live and die with you or not like you at all.
Yeah.
Or want to see you get killed.
Or see you want to get killed.
Yeah.
Was that meant for me?
They'll be there with the Jello in a minute. Just be patient. Jello shooters, that is.
Yeah, Jello shooters. Exactly. We're gonna do some Jello shots next week. I think it's gonna be the theme. I will say, Rick Martel. I only knew him as the model when I was a kid, so I did not know he had a run in AWA till later on. And I would think that probably him, being Montreal Canadian and having the accent and stuff like that could have been a hindrance too in certain ways.
It could have been.
And I think on top of it, I think he conveyed better as a heel probably than he would as a babyface. Maybe that might have just been it. But to you guys, both your points, it's really about the charisma and getting yourself across.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's how the people accept you. And I mean, you have to get through to them on how you are in the ring. And, Rick had great fire.
Yeah.
And it's bringing those people into your personality. And you do it in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to be able to dictate or talk in the microphone and show them, get those feelings, how you really feel about somebody.
Right.
And drag them into you. And there's some great talent, like TA said, in wrestling that never really made it big because they either didn't have the charisma or they couldn't relate with the people out there watching them, getting them into their personality.
Right. Right.
Another great example, Brad Armstrong, one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. One of the most gifted in-ring performers ever been in the ring with. I've tag teamed with him when I was very, very green and just starting out, and he was 10 times better than me in the ring then, and watched him, work his way up. And outside the ring, he could make you laugh so hard that your teeth would fall out of your head. But he could just be a storyteller and a comedian and all these things. But when he got on the camera, it was like he had a vision of himself of what he was supposed to be on camera as a wrestler. And it didn't play off like any of the other things that he did off the cuff, around, making everybody laugh and doing. If that guy that I saw in the dressing room or I rode up and down the road in the car with could have come across like that when the little red light came on, he would have been huge. Yeah. I mean, huge. And the things in the ring then would have just been like icing on top of the sundae because he would have been that big. And it blows your mind when you look at that, because all the skills and the things and what those guys and girls and do down in the performance centers and all the different you can have all that mechanical stuff in the world, but if somebody doesn't see that you've got that little magic dust and sprinkled in there with it, then you can have a place, you can have a career, but your lane is going to be very narrow compared to having all the opportunity in the world at your fingertips.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you think did people try to coach with that a little bit, like somebody like a Dusty or somebody like that, to try to bring that out of him in front of the camera, or do you think it was just a missed opportunity that nobody really was able to connect with him and get that out of him necessarily? Like there was the potential there, but it just never happened.
I wonder, and I've wondered this because Bill Watts brought it out in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it was just that he just pissed me off to get it out of me, and what, but I mean, he and Superstar Bill Dundee brought that out of me and helped me find my way into the Magnum character and the persona. And Brad came along behind me in that same machine, and he carried the North American belt, and he had a run there, and so he had the exact same trajectory and path, kind of like right behind me, through the same indoctrination, the same skill teachers and everything else, and it just didn't have the same impact on him. So I don't know that it's coaching even so much as again, that intangible thing that you don't know how to break. But later on in life, when Dusty had such a great career at the NXT and all those people he called his kids, he brought it out of them. He coached the young Seth Rollins and Ashley Flairs and Becky Lynch's and Bailey's and all those guys that went on to just be superstars. He helped them all find themselves. So he wasn't doing things like that with me per se, other than encouraging me, and believing in me. That's how he encouraged me. But he went on to, just foster, so many great careers by helping people find their way in that performance center and coaching. I mean, he told me he didn't even consider it, wrestling. He considered it like an acting, acting class on the highest level.
Yeah.
To improv.
Mm-hmm.
You hear how all those they call themselves Dusty's kids too, down there from NXT and stuff like that.
And that's a great honor.
Mm-hmm. It's a great honor for sure. Darren Staley says something great. Talk the cat off the back of a fish wagon. Trademark that ASAP. Get on it,
I'll get right on that. That's good. See, I'm showing my age. 65 is fast approaching, and that was I grew up in the country.
65. Wait to get where I am. You'll start forgetting things.
No, I got to keep Steve straight.
That's it. Speaking of which, don't forget things. Don't forget the TNA figures, guys. Boom. TNA action figures. Pre-order them now. PowertownWrestling.com. Go check them out. Eddie Edwards, Jordan Grace, Moose, and Josh Alexander are all available. You can get them all at once in a bundle for $189.99, or you can get them for $49.99 a piece. So go to PowertownWrestling.com. Check them out. There's going to be more stuff to come. Magnum and Greg have both been teasing me away about it. Guys, this is not available anymore, but I've been wanting to show this again on the thing, is the Kerry Von Erich Diamond figure. Amazing. Very, very, very cool. They got the write-up from his daughters in there. Beautiful. Well done. I'm so tempted to open it, but I'm not going to.
Did we send it to you, or did you buy that?
I bought it. I went.
Did you really?
Yep. So
we haven't sent anything to you?
Not yet. I can hit you guys up for it.
Well, yeah, we better get something over there to you.
We'll think of you at Christmas.
Oh, thanks.
Which one, though?
But on that note,
Christmas are we talking about?
Which Christmas?
The Impact deal. So this will air Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
The Impact deal closes on the 31st. The pre-sale will be done. Wow. So if people haven't got their orders in by the 31st, and it's a little hard for the wrestling fan-ish people to realize that this is a pre-sale model. So these are pre-sale prices because people are having to wait a number of months to get the product. And when the product does come on market, it'll be through wholesalers that have bought from us. They'll be selling in stores, or perhaps Anthem through TNA. We'll probably have some available at some of their events, but I promise you this $49.99 price this will be the bottom end of that deal. They will skyrocket. So get your order in at that price while you can take advantage of it, and it'll be an instant collectible.
Well, what we've seen is the collectors order a bunch of them from us. We don't know who's buying them. They buy up a bunch of them. And I heard the other day when I was in St. Louis, Kerry Von Erich went for $2,500 online.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And, I mean, when you look at that first run we had of the 6, Vernon, Lou, and Brody, Hansen, TA, and Von Erich, I mean, they're all, anywhere from $250 to up to, $1,250 to $1,500 for those figures now.
Right.
Yeah.
And you guys can go to thewrestlingcollection.com. It is, and still available, I believe, is the original versions of Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen. But you can also get the display only ones for $35.99, I believe it is, or $35, I believe. But you can get a version of Vern. You get a version of Bruiser Brody, which I have, or you can get Stan Hansen. So guys, go to thewrestlingcollection.com and see what's still available there. But guys, this was a great show. I had a lot of fun. Again, I had a topic planned, but when we started talking about big men, and I was like, why not? Let's talk about big men. Let's talk about Owen Hart. Let's cover some ground on here. So this is a fun episode.
Well, good. What did you have planned, though?
I've been having Andre the Giant on tap for quite a while. But, yes. So, but I always think he'll be a good one. And then Darren Staley's given us some good ones, like some great promos. Like we could always talk about who was great promos. There's another one too that he talked about. Like maybe we can detail like David Schultz a little bit more. Some really fun ones that we can cover at some point.
Oh, good. We'll have fun.
So
I've got some good Andre stories for you. And
right?
I'm sure TA does
too. I think that'll be a huge chunk.
Stories. You got to tell stories.
There'd be no Magnum without Andre.
How about that? That's right.
Never been.
Yeah.
And that Magnum, that blew my mind because somebody sent a question asking about that. I read it in a book. Like I was reading about Andre and it said that like he's the one that suggested Matt. I was like, holy crap. And I didn't even know that. So it's pretty wild. Guys, you'll have to hear about that later on though. But if you guys want some fun content, you got to go to Greg Gagne's Instagram. It's gagne.greg. Go follow him. He posts a sweet picture of Larry Henning and the Henning family.
Do you see that? And Harley Race?
And Harley Race. Crazy. You guys got to go check it out. These are photos you won't see anywhere else. So go to Gagne's Instagram, gagne.greg. You can follow Magnum TA on X at The Real Magnum TA. You can also follow him on Instagram. Let me pull that up here. It is Magnum_TA on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo. But guys, see that QR code right over there? Scan that, go to powertownwrestling.com and secure your TNA wrestling figure before they sell out at May 31st. So be on the lookout, guys.
Boy, and they've been hot, haven't they, TA?
Cooking.
Fire. Cooking, baby.
Cooking, baby.
This show is cooking. Guys, be sure to subscribe. If you're watching on Arn Anderson's Twitter, you're watching on my Twitter, be sure to go to the fourhorsemannetwork.com. That's the original Arn Anderson YouTube channel, but it is now the fourhorsemannetwork.com, and it's the host to us. So go subscribe to that. Be sure to spread the word, get the word out about us. We're going to keep this train rolling, guys, and it's been a lot of fun. And episode 21 in the books, guys. So, Greg, Magnum, thanks for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, my little buckaroos.
The best way we could end it. We'll see you guys next time here on Straight Talk with